Hello, everybody. Welcome to the March 13th edition of the Gwtf NHL podcast, presented by Let Me Be Frank Sports. Joined here, Nick Phillips, joined by my line mates, Dan Merritz. Dan, how we doing?
Not too bad, brother. How about yourself?
Good. Currently, our Blackhawks are up 4-0 on Toronto early in the second period after a 7-1 win over the Oats. Also joined tonight by my other co-host, Kevin Bartman. Kevin, how we doing?
Doing all right. Thought you forgot about me, but I'm good. Doing good. Thank you.
I just give everyone their personal spotlight. You know how it is.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we used to do a little double hello, but we want to call out the boys individually. So let's just right off the hop here. Let's just get into it. Since we last spoke last week, I'd say like 7 or 8 days ago, we had a couple suspensions in the NHL. We had Jack Eichel and Jakub Voracek deliver a couple what I would call questionable hits. Obviously, these are more skilled players, not necessarily known for their tenacity, so to speak, but they kind of showed that they've got a little bit of an edge, and they're not afraid to retaliate and stick up for themselves. But maybe we'll kick it off with Eichel. So he had a little bit of an incident with Zadorov from the Colorado Avalanche at a game in Denver. So whoever wants to share their thoughts. I mean, I think the suspension there was I think it was fair, 2 games for a deliberate hit to the head. But curious what you guys think.
Yeah, I felt like he definitely didn't mean to do it. But I guess, that's really not the point of suspensions and illegal hits. Just because you don't mean to do it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, face the consequences. And he clipped him basically in the jaw. And that's exactly what the NHL is trying to eliminate. It's difficult because the game's so fast and things change so quickly. Sorry, who did he hit again? I already forgot the guy's name. The Avs player that
Zadorov.
Thank you. He leaned in and he kind of went to go poke check, and that lowers your stance. And Eichel was prepared to what I think would have been a shoulder to shoulder hit, and it ended up clipping his head. The issue that I had was the reverse hit, which was Zadorov on Eichel, and that one was kind of vicious. It started out somewhat clean. But the finish was up into the head, and then he basically ripped his helmet off. And I'm kind of surprised that nothing came of that. It wasn't the clipping hit that Eichel had, for the folks at home that didn't see that one possibly. But I almost had more of an issue with that one than Eichel's, because I felt like Eichel's was definitely an accident. I knew he was pissed off, and that's fine. And you can deliver clean hits when you're pissed off, and it just so happened that he clipped him in the head. The other one seemed a little bit more vicious and a little bit more of an ill sort of intent, because he didn't need to finish so high into Eichel's head and then kind of rip the helmet off. So yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on that one. So yeah, Kev, what are your thoughts, man?
Honestly, pretty much exactly the same with the Eichel hit. I feel like that, you can cut Eichel some slack because, you can tell he's just trying to, run by him. Probably square him up on the shoulder, but he just obviously missed and clipped him right on the head. So, dirty hit. I don't find it intentional because Eichel just doesn't seem like that type of player. And then on the, the Zadorov hit, the one he hit back, I thought that was going to be like a boarding penalty or something. Because that one, like you said, Dan, it started off clean, just drive right to the chest, and then he just sort of throws him right into the boards. And obviously his helmet came off and took a big bump there. So, yeah, I mean, the suspension is well worth it. The forecheck hit, where we'll get into, I'm actually, a little bit more have a little more conviction and a stronger opinion on that one. But we'll let
go ahead. Keep going, man. Keep going, man.
I mean, just to compare the two, the Eichel hit, he was clearly skating and just kind of a bad timing on the hit, whereas the Voracek one, he's just kind of standing there close to the boards. And who did he hit?
Johnny
Boychuk. Yeah,
Johnny Boychuk.
And Johnny Boychuk was not happy.
He was quite angry.
Yeah, there was a lot of back and forth after that where basically Johnny Boychuk pretty much threatened to end him. But
yeah. Where anyways, Voracek was just pretty much stationary, and so Boychuk skates into the corner, and Voracek just kind of clips him quite intentionally out of nowhere. So I thought it was a very, very dirty hit, not even remotely trying to make any sort of a hockey play on it. So
well, see, that's
just
where
comparing
I disagree
the two.
with you a little. Just a little.
Really?
Just a teeny tiny bit. The hit itself was dirty. He got him up high. I've been on the receiving end, and I've been on both sides. I've been on Boychuk's side, and it sucks. I hate it so much because you feel like such an asshole that you were gonna, like, thinking that you're going into the corner and I'm gonna fucking run this guy through like the fifth row. I'm gonna blow him up, and then it's the complete opposite. And you feel like an idiot. What Voracek's trying to do there is he's at least in my experience, and I am somewhat confident in that I'm right. He's anticipating getting the puck, and he knows that Boychuk's flying in there about to destroy him. So what Voracek's trying to do is brace and kind of counter hit in a way. And the timing was all off, and he hit him high. So that's where I completely agree with you. The timing was off because Boychuk was just skating in. Voracek didn't even have the puck yet. So both of them, didn't have the puck when Voracek hit Boychuk. And it was a little high because he kind of clipped him up in the head, and he, basically like clotheslined him. That I totally understand why Boychuk's pissed off. But I understand what Voracek was trying to do. And as a forward, when you go into those corners, that big defensemen are either going to run you over in their defensive end, or if you're in your D zone, they're going to pinch on you and they're going to try and run you over. So I think what he was trying to do was protect himself. I think he anticipated having the puck, which obviously, like I said, he didn't. And he went to go counter hit Boychuk, and he just got him up high, and he got him. It was a bad. In theory, it was a good idea, but it was just a poorly executed hit. That's my little difference between the suspension's totally. I totally agree with the suspension. I'm just saying I understand where Voracek was coming from with the hit.
It is of my humble opinion that Voracek's timing was quite off on that.
It was quite off. Yes, I wholeheartedly agree.
In the sense of where the puck was. I mean, I don't think the puck was. It wasn't things where it was a split second early. Like the puck was coming up the right side of the wall around the net, and like I know exactly the hit you're talking about, and I think everyone knows. Like, yeah, that's a great hit to defend yourself as long as the puck's in the area. But I definitely think Voracek knew what he was doing there, and it was a little early. And it's a big loss for the Flyers, obviously here.
Yeah, especially with where they're sitting. That's kind of a –
yeah.
If you're going to do that move, you got to make sure that you do it right. That's basically just my point. And I don't know if that comes down to just poor timing on his end. He was looking at Boychuk, and then he looked back, and maybe he just figured the puck was going to be closer. Or maybe, it was malicious intent. I don't, I'm not 100% sure. I think Boychuk got into it with, I forgot who it was. One of the other Flyers players in a game previous. So, I don't know if there's any, sort of bad blood there. Either way, though, I'm glad that the Flyers and the Islanders are starting to heat up a little bit in terms of their own rivalry between the two teams, because that was such a big, hatred back in the day. And both teams have kind of been, the Flyers had the cup run in 2010, but that's really about it. The Islanders haven't had much to show for at all in this decade. So it's good to see that there's a little, animosity getting going, and it's a rivalry I think that we haven't seen. I'm not saying that people need to get hurt, but I'm just glad that it's starting to get, bad blood is starting to kind of come about.
It's good for the sport, man.
Yeah.
It's actually interesting that you bring up rivalries, and I think maybe we were planning on talking about it a little earlier, but I think a good transition would be to talk about the playoff format. So last week, Kevin and I were discussing, in our last episode, a lot of potential rule changes. People have been clamming for rule changes, and this week, I guess the new flavor of the week is let's bitch and moan about the playoff format. And I will actually play it's about a minute-long clip, worth your time though. It's from Steven Stamkos. And he's discussing he was asking I think it was like after like a pregame skate or something about the new playoff format, and obviously with Tampa being such a wagon, and they're going to have to probably play a real tough team here in the second round. The winner of I think Boston Toronto. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, they asked him about it. So let's play the clip about the new playoff format. Maybe we can have a spirited discussion about do we miss 1 versus 8, or do we like this new format, or are there pros and cons to both? I mean, we can get into that, but I'll play the clip.
It is what it is. It's been that way for a while now. You're gonna have to beat the best teams to win, anyways, whether it's the first round or the conference finals. But I understand where they're coming from a marketing perspective, wanting to get some rivalries early on. But I think from a perspective of what you're grinding 82 games for during a season is to finish as high as you can, so you can have that advantage come playoffs. So I don't think that's an advantage to Toronto or Boston to be, what could be the top 3 teams in the whole league from one division and then have to play that team in the first round. I don't think that's right. In saying that, you saw what Pitt and Wash had to deal with for the last couple of years. I mean, it is what it is. You can't change it now, but I don't think it's the most fair in terms of why you play and the advantage you're supposed to have come playoff time.
So yeah, obviously Stamkos, he's weighing the pros and cons of it, understands it. Sounds like a guy who misses one for 8. So I'll pass it along to you guys. I have a few opinions about it, but curious to hear what you guys
sure
first.
I think he's got some great points. I personally miss the 1 through 8. I also like this format too, because you've had some great, like he said with the Pitt Washington, that's just such a good series. We're starting to see Winnipeg and Nashville. I'm sure we'll see it again this year. And you boys know that series is going to be a fucking bloodbath, and I can't wait for it. That's some really exciting hockey. But I also miss the 1 through 8. Now, granted, Vancouver's sort of trailed off a little bit, but one of the most notable, rivalries that the Hawks had in the 1 through 8 at the beginning in 2009, 2010, and 2011 was against Vancouver, and that was some great fucking hockey. All 3 of those series, don't like to talk about the 2011 one too much, but those are some great rivalries that are missing out. The Hawks played the Flames first round in 2009. People forget that. That was a great series. I'd love to see Johnny Gaudreau go up against, Patrick Kane, if the Hawks ever get good enough again to make the playoffs, or Johnny Gaudreau go up against, Nashville, something like that. I think the 1 through 8 is a more fair, sort of more, I guess, logical order, because it just makes sense. Like what Stamkos says, they're having an unbelievable season this year, record-breaking season potentially, or maybe I think it already has broken like at least one record. And yeah, they might have to play one of the best teams in the league second round, and one of those teams has to beat one of the other better teams in the league right now. And so it's just a little frustrating. I think I would rather see a Winnipeg-Nashville conference final than a Winnipeg-Nashville second round. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I sit. I guess that's basically somewhere in the middle. I think at this point they should just leave it. I don't think they're going to change it anytime soon. I think if they are going to change it, it's going to be another 5-10 years before that happens. But then, in those 5-10 years, we might be back in the same position going, oh, shit, I missed the divisional rivals, and now we're back to these kind of Metropolitan versus Atlantic and Pacific versus Central. So, Kev, what's your take?
Sounds like Steven Stamkos is a little scared. He's a little baby. Here's the thing. I can see both sides of the coin. Like, you went into it pretty well, Dan. Like, the 1 through 8 format, it gives you different matchups like you described. But I mean, like, if you truly are the best, the cream rises to the top. If you really are the best team, you're going to win the Stanley Cup. It's that easy. If you're not the best team, you don't win the Stanley Cup. You're going to have to play the best teams, beat the best teams to get to where you want to be. So if you're going balls to the wall, 9 cylinders, game 1 through game 82, and, not, I guess there is an element to not to conserving some of your energy for the playoffs. There really is. And if you're just going balls to the wall and then you run out of gas in the playoffs, then I guess that's on you. So if you want to win a Stanley Cup, you got to beat the best teams. If I'm, personally, this pisses me off. If I'm on the Lightning, I don't want my captain, bitching about the playoff format. You want a guy that's going to be like, we don't care. I don't care who we got to play, how many times we got to play him. We're going to beat them. We're going to win this. Like, you got to be confident. You can't just be, splitting hairs and, bitching and whining about, oh man, we got to play too many games against too many good teams. Boo-hoo. Go home.
Well, I mean, I don't think he was as much complaining as he was just as much being kind of honest. He was just kind of like, it is what it is. He started with, it is what it is. I mean, there's nothing we can change, but I think he was just being honest and trying to give some reporters and fans some insight into what the players think about it. So obviously the marketing is something he brought up. That's absolutely correct. With rivalries, but as Dan said, you're missing out on the chance to potentially create new rivalries because, the Blackhawks in Vancouver would never have become rivals unless they played in the playoffs. And it's highly unlikely they'll ever play the playoffs 3 straight years in a row, based on this format. I mean, they essentially have to be the conference final 3 straight years. So highly unlikely that you're going to get these new organic rivalries. They're kind of just forcing geographic rivals based on this. Another thing I could think of as to why they probably implemented the current system is to try to limit the travel in the first round. I mean, the playoffs they're grueling, right? They're grueling. They're such a grind. And the last thing you wanted, as much as those Hawks Vancouver series were fun, I mean, the teams are flying coast to coast, or not coast to coast, but I mean, a damn far flight. So that's something I think to consider too, is the travel. But at the same time, what's weird is Stamkos is talking about how, the number 1 seed or whatever should be rewarded. But what's weird under the new format is if you lock in the 2 or 3 spot in your division, you don't really have to travel that far. It's like a guarantee. But if you finish with the best record in your division, like who knows where the wild card, will be from. I mean, if you're a central team, and you're the number 1 team, or for right now, like you're San Jose or you're Calgary, right? Well, what happens if Minnesota is that last spot, right? Or if you're, what happens if Dallas is the last spot? I mean, you got going from Calgary to Dallas, back and forth 3 times. I mean, that's that's not exactly a reward for having the number 1 record. And DeBrincat just potted another one, so it's 5-0. But it's just something to consider. But 1 through 8 was awesome, but it just heightens the chances of a lot of travel. But yeah, I mean, it'd be cool as hell if the Blackhawks could play McDavid in the playoffs someday. You could see Kane versus McDavid, or you could see Nashville go up against him, or I mean, who wouldn't want to see Gaudreau go against Winnipeg or something? Like, I'm sure Canadian fans would love that. And of course, you can get it in the conference final, but it's pretty much like, the rivalries that already exist are only going to get bigger. It's kind of the way this is going to go right now.
It's actually funny, Nick, that you brought up Calgary versus Dallas. While you guys were talking, I took a look at all the points and everything, and I don't know. I have all 8 teams. Tampa would be playing Columbus. Boston would be playing Carolina, which has proved to be a really entertaining series this year. Toronto would be playing Pittsburgh. That'd be a hell of a first rounder. And Washington would be playing New York. And then the West, San Jose would be playing Arizona. To your point, Nick, Calgary and Dallas would be a first round matchup. Winnipeg and St. Louis, holy fucking heavy hitting that would be. And then Nashville would play Vegas. Are you kidding me? Nashville and Vegas first round? That'd be fucking nuts. Anyway, just to throw out what it would be like right now if playoffs ended in the old format. I could do it either way. It totally makes sense, like you're saying, with the travel and everything. I think that's kind of why they did it, plus the natural division rivalries that you get with that. But it makes me a little sad, and maybe it's, nostalgia glasses or whatever. But it makes me a little sad that you don't get these sort of out of left field matchups in the first round. For example,
I mean, the number one seed. I mean, let's say San Jose theoretically finishes with the number one record in the West, which is a very big possibility right now.
Sure.
In theory, San Jose could play round one against Minnesota, have a bunch of travel back and forth. Now, that's a series they should wrap up in 5 or 6, no doubt, right? Based on the discrepancy in talent.
Sure.
But, they could have to do a bunch of travel, and then second round, I mean, you're playing the winner of Calgary-Vegas. Like, I mean, it just shows how good the NHL is, and it's great for the sport that there's tons of parity, but it's not like the number one – I don't think the number one seed has it as easy as they used to, and part of the complaint is, well, what are we playing 82 games for? I think I understand the –
That's where I understand what Stamkos is saying. As a fan, I love the division rival stuff. As a player, not as an NHL player, not even as a good hockey player. I suck, ladies and gents. I understand where he's coming from. Those long seasons get extremely grueling. Just to go off on a little tangent here, my junior year of high school, our high school team played, I think it was like 60 or 70 games. It was fucking ridiculous. Any tournament that we could get into, we were in. So preseason tournament, Thanksgiving, Christmas, you name it. We were in every fucking tournament, and we won like everything. We were great. And then we got to the state tournament, and I think we ran into a really hot goalie that stoned the shit out of us, but I think we just ran out of gas. And I think that's sort of, Kev, to your point, you're saying he's whining like a baby. I understand what he's saying. The regular season's grueling enough as it is. He just wants to keep the momentum up. There's always that fear of you're doing so well in these 82 games. You could fall. Look at the fucking Hawks. What is it, 3 years ago now? 106 points in the Central Division, get swept by Nashville. Boom, done, over. So I think that's sort of his fear is and I think it's a little justified, but Kev, I also understand your point. Like he said right in the opening thing, if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best anyway. So I guess it's just a matter of, kind of semantics.
Also, I mean, like, what if, so in theory, if it's a 1-8 format, league, first round, you're going against a team that barely sneaks into the playoffs. You wax them in 4 games, and then you come into the second round, play a significantly better team, and then you get the wheels beaten off you because you're I don't know, maybe you're not playing your best hockey because you're playing shitty competition, whatever reason it might be. In this current format, there's more consistently better competition, and I feel like honestly that bodes better for the teams. You're playing better teams throughout the whole playoffs. I think it's better for the fans too because you're not just watching shitty 4-0 sweeps in the first round all the time. And I think for the players, teams are better prepared throughout the playoffs. They're playing better competition. They're always on their best game. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, but I think there was plenty enough teams that just barely squeaked in the old format too, where they really put up a fight and even won some. Philly in 2010 is a perfect example. They were the 8th seed. They made it all the way to the Cup final. The 7th seed that year was Montreal.
Well, LA winning the Cup is the last.
Yeah, LA winning the Cup. They were 8. They dusted Vancouver. Like I was saying with Philly beat Montreal, and if I'm not mistaken, Montreal was the 7.
They were.
It was 7-8, which is fucking bananas to think that not even the top 4 teams could finish in the conference final. But there's plenty of examples, I think. Come playoff time, it doesn't matter how many points you fucking get. Everybody's a huge threat. And I think that goes for this new format, and I think it goes for the old format. So, like I said, my position's just somewhere in the middle. I'm fine with it being either way.
Yeah. Well, is the 1 seed now? If you finish 1 or 2 right now, like if you're the number 1 seed, right, you're going to be playing, I believe, technically, if it was a 1-8 format, like the number 1 division winner versus the second wild card is the same matchup regardless. I don't think it's possible for in either format for those teams to be different, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah.
The thing is, in the second round, normally if you were the top seed, you would just play the worst seed available round 2. Whereas now the second round, like you're playing a team that finished 2nd or 3rd in its division. So the stakes have already raised in the second round as far as the quality of the opponent. But I think we've gotten into pretty fun debate here about that. And I think that at the end of the day, neither format is perfect, or how about neither format is going to make everybody happy? I mean, there's even some people that just want the top 16 teams and just
they did that for like a season, I think.
Yeah,
but that would be that would.
That's too much.
That's way too much.
Too much travel. I mean, if you could have Carolina playing San Jose in the first round, like, come on.
I think out of the 16 teams, Arizona has the least amount of points. So you're talking about a first round matchup between Tampa Bay and Arizona. Talk about grueling like flights.
I don't think that's good TV.
No, I agree. 100%.
I think that would get awful things.
I don't even know how you would do that, because you would have you'd have like an 8:00 game in Tampa, so it's 7:00 Central Time. But then when you go to Arizona,
that's a good point. This is part of the
game. The game would have to be at like I don't know, 5, 6, so that the East Coast, all the Tampa fans, can still watch it and be able to go to fucking work the next morning. So that would just be an awful thing, and that's why I'm glad, obviously, that the East and the West is separated until the Cup final. Then there's only one series. Everybody knows that they're in. It's not that big a deal when it's the Stanley Cup. People are willing to, who the fuck wants to see like a double overtime between Tampa and Arizona in the first round? If that's a Cup final, hell yeah, I'm staying up. But first, fuck it, I'm going to bed. So,
all right, moving along. While we talk, funny, but moving along, we had talked about suspensions earlier. This gentleman was suspended recently for a nice little swing at Michael Raffl of the Flyers, but not what we're going to talk about now. But Evgeny Gino Malkin, man, he's putting himself in a very elite category of Russian players all time. I mean, you could debate he's among one of the all-time Russian great hockey players. I mean, 1,000 points in the NHL. He just clips that mark. So congratulations to him. Obviously, he's got 3 cups. Guy's still nasty. Him and Crosby still going strong. Just unbelievable. You could say the same thing with Ovechkin, who's closing in on, I believe, 1,300 points, which is just absurd. And I think Crosby is too, actually. But the fact that these guys are playing at such a high level still is pretty amazing. But just any quick thoughts on Gino reaching 1,000? I mean, are we putting him up there with the? Obviously Ovechkin's up there, but I mean the Fedorovs, that kind of stuff. I don't know how you guys want to approach.
I think it's. I think it's safe to do. I mean, more than enough time has passed since his rookie season. He's got 3 cups. That's a pretty big fucking deal. Not many guys can say that they have 1,000 points in the show and are still, chugging along and, are as successful as him. I certainly think he is going to be a future Hall of Famer. I don't think that should even be a question. I'll just keep it simple, Kev.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's probably up there with the better Russian players to ever play in the NHL. The thing that stands out to me is just he's such an absolute specimen. Like, he's like 6'4".
Yeah, he's a big fucking dude.
Like 230, 240, I don't even know. He's just so big and, still so shifty, so skilled. I mean, not to discredit him, playing with Sidney Crosby helps quite a bit. But there was a breakdown of who contributed to every single one of us down beyond Crosby. It's still pretty damn even. He on his own, he's obviously just very talented, and just being able to watch it, his whole career, like Sergei Fedorov, Pavel Datsyuk, those guys. I wasn't able to fully, understand their greatness because I just first started watching hockey when they're, still in the middle of their careers. So to catch, the full career pretty much of Malkin and Ovechkin too, it's pretty special. It's pretty cool to see, their whole career and how special it is all the way through.
Yeah, and I think both of them are just players that even without each other, they would be, sure the numbers probably wouldn't be quite as high, but the numbers would still be ridiculously high with both of them. They could both skate, they can make moves, they can shoot, they can score, they can dish if they need to. You know, and then the thing I like about Malkin is he's not willing, or excuse me, he's willing to mix it up. He's not afraid to, you know, get in somebody's face, maybe relax a little bit with the two hands. But if you see in playoffs and stuff, he'll hit that breaking point, and that's where he comes out swinging with either his fists or with his stick. But two just generational, top-notch players, you know, and I think there are a lot of really good players that have their careers to thank because of other players. I think that's a little bit of the case with this, but like I said, you put either one of these guys on two teams with no real score. Like if you put Malkin on the Wild don't really have like a top goal scorer that Malkin can dish to every night like Crosby. He's still going to put up ridiculous numbers, like fact. So for me, yeah, they're both just tremendous. Nick, what's your take, bro?
Yeah, I mean, hard to disagree with any of the shit you guys just said, but just one more little tidbit I'd throw in there is 2009 Conn Smythe for Malkin, obviously. Another accolade that he racked up. I mean, that was after, you know, they had lost Hossa off that team and had a rematch with Detroit. And, I mean, Malkin just was an absolute horse for them. And obviously Crosby was great, and you had this two heroic goals from Max Talbot in Game 7. But, I mean, yeah, 2009 Conn Smythe, I mean, you know, Russians got a bad rap for a long time for being soft and, you know, that, you know, they wouldn't do the dirty stuff and, you know, could they handle the goal of a playoff? And obviously there were some Detroit teams that had plenty of European influence, you know, they were scouting. They were kind of like the first organization that kind of went all in on bringing in like Europeans, I think. And not that there weren't great European players in the NHL for many years, but I mean, they've only really been the NHL, I think, since like the late 70s, early 80s, you know, and I mean, to see Malkin go out there and win a Conn Smythe, you know, was, I think, pretty special and something that, I mean, that's just another, you know, feather in his cap for his Hall of Fame candidacy. He'll be a first ballot all day. So, boys, we want to talk about how about Johnny Hockey and Ben Bishop, kind of the, I don't know, two hottest players in the NHL right now, unless we count Brendan Perlini. But Gaudreau, 3 points and 3 assists last evening, just unbelievable. That was against New Jersey. So, I mean, that team's an absolute gone show this year with Taylor Hall being out with his knee injury since about Christmas time. And then another little fun stat is Ben Bishop. The Stars have not been good in the second half, like many Central teams. I mean, outside of Chicago and St. Louis. I mean, Winnipeg's kind of been iffy. Nashville's been good, not so good. But, I mean, obviously Minnesota, Colorado have not had good second halves. And Dallas started to dip for a bit. But Ben Bishop has really started to right the ship for them. He's got 3 consecutive shutouts. In that he's at 204 minutes and 20 seconds of consecutive, you know, shutout streak. So quick math there is that's over 9 periods. I think it's 9 periods and an extra 4 minutes. Or fuck, never mind. Not a math guy. Not stuff. But yeah, it's I know it is. It's actually 9 periods and an extra 4 minutes. So I believe he's getting the nod from his head coach tomorrow night in Minnesota or against Minnesota. So you know, Ben Bishop's hot and Johnny Hockey 6 points. I don't know if either of you guys have any thoughts on either of those teams, but Dallas was looking like a sinking ship there for a bit, and then all of a sudden he just literally turned into a fucking brick wall.
Yeah, as far as Johnny Hockey goes, he's just a man on a mission. And I'm glad to see Calgary. And Kev, I know you'll get into it because you love the Flames. I actually like the Flames a lot too, kind of always have. And yeah, the man is just absolutely killing it right now. Flames are flying high. I look forward to seeing them in the playoffs, seeing them hopefully, for them and their fans' sake, make a deep run. And as far as Bishop goes, goaltending in this league is always, I think come playoff time especially, it's probably your biggest asset. If you've got a goalie just literally stopping everything, take a look at John Quick 2012, then you're going to be really hard to beat. So for him to do it with Dallas, and they, like you said, Nick, they've kind of been struggling a wee bit. It's good to see, when you get confidence in your goalie like that, it just makes everyone else better. In the playoffs, everything offense transitions off defense. And if your defense is just rolling, then there's no limit to what, they can do offensively. So good for them to see Bishop, performing the way he is. Kev, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, Dan, you're right. I do have quite an affinity for the Calgary Flames. They're just, they're super fun to watch, loaded with young talent. Come playoff times, though, the thing that worries me is just their goaltending. Like, I don't feel confident in watching Mike Smith and whoever their fucking other goalie is, Rittich. Like, they just don't, to me, they don't have a bona fide, like, number one goalie. They don't have a guy who they can, put in for a playoff series and just, like, be confident that he'll shut it down. Like, maybe some people see it that way. I personally don't. So, we've seen it before from Mike Smith. Obviously, us as Blackhawks fans, we've seen him, sort of shut down the Blackhawks for a series and take Coyotes to the conference final. So it can be done, but, like, I just don't see that tandem as, sustainable for a playoff series, just for whatever reason.
Good luck to the Calgary
It
Flames.
makes me nervous.
Good luck to the Flames if they have to play the wagon. That is the Vegas Golden Knights with Mark Stone, because, boys.
Yeah, Vegas is going to take that one.
It is buzzing right now. That pickup was huge. Like, we talked about it ad nauseum around the trade deadline, and I think the episode there, but that team is just – that top six is just so ridiculous. Oh, my God. They got two lines that play 200 feet and can score with the best of them, and Fleury's looking like Fleury's starting to play real well at the right time too. So a team that plays defense that can kind of negate, your prolific offense to an extent. I'm not saying they're going to completely shut down Calgary or would in a hypothetical first round matchup or even second round matchup, but Calgary's got a lot of talent up front with, Tkachuk's having a great year and Gaudreau and Monahan and those guys. But yeah, and they've got a good defense too with, Giordano and who's, he's going to be a Norris finalist most likely, Brody and just all them guys. But I just thought I'd mention that Vegas is just looking so scary. Like, I'm sure a lot of people, knew they were going to come back, have a lot of talent, but people were like, well, can they really do it again? And, well, they're doing it again. They just added one of the best two-way forwards in the entire league. So, yeah, they can.
I think you pretty much just nailed that.
Yeah, kind of nothing to add. And then, kind of juxtaposing them with the Flames, they have Marc-Andre Fleury, who's obviously a stud. We've seen him do very well in the playoffs. So, like, yeah, that's probably it's hard to not say the Lightning, but, like, the Vegas Golden Knights are definitely one of the very few, of the scariest teams in the league right now, because they're just clicking on all cylinders. They got an unbelievable barn. It's hard to go in there and play. So, Jesus Christ, if you got to go in there in the playoffs, Godspeed.
Well, sticking in that division, I think the last thing we wanted to quickly cover is, sticking in that division, the Pacific, that is the Arizona Coyotes. Always got to pause there a second so I don't fuck up and say Phoenix. But the Yotes, they've had over 300 man games lost this year, if that makes sense, just riddled with injuries. But they're currently sitting in the final wild card spot. So obviously, they've shooken things up with some big trades. Obviously, Domi for Galchenyuk, and then the midseason deal with the Blackhawks. Getting Schmaltz for Strome, but of course Schmaltz went down with a season-ending knee injury. But going along with the theme of them being pretty nicked up. But any thoughts on the Yotes Can they hang on? Can they make any noise? Is it just a feel-good story? I mean, any quick thoughts on them before we shut her down tonight?
Yeah, just what they're doing right now is pretty tremendous. Like you said, with all the injuries that they've had and notable people going down, I think their actual like official, I forgot what the official one is. It's like next man up or something like that. And it's just good to see the whole organization, and I think the fan base too, just really getting behind the team. And even though they've had these struggles, they're right there. As far as making it into the playoffs, I actually would love to see them in the playoffs. I don't really necessarily I mean, right now they're going to play the Sharks. Don't really see them beating the Sharks. If they play Calgary, probably would still take Calgary over them. But you never know with the way that they're playing right now. But they seem to be getting hot at the right moment to be one of those kind of dark horse picks that could sneak in and maybe make it to a second round and knock someone huge out of the cup run. So I think I said this on the Be Frank podcast. I think the Hawks are done. I'm going to stick with that. I think I really don't want to see Minnesota in because they're just so boring.
I think Colorado's fucked without Landeskog personally.
Yeah, they're screwed. Yeah, true. He's what out? 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, so AKA the rest of the regular.
Yeah, and that whole team revolves around that first line. So that's a massive chunk gone. I don't think they'll necessarily make it. I don't want to see Minnesota make it. I'm sorry, Minnesota fans. I'm not telling you where I live because y'all come and kill me maybe. So I'm rooting for Arizona, man. I'm all in on them. I hope they win. Or well, maybe not win, but I hope they make the playoffs is what I'm trying to say. So
yeah, I mean, there's an element to seeing, sort of an underdog team get into the playoffs. I think it's a little similar to Vegas in a way, just that, except for the fact that Vegas was like far and away one of the better teams in the league, but just a team that you don't expect it from, not a very big hockey market. But it's something that the whole, town, the whole city rallies around. And just to be able to, as a fan, just to be able to see like a fan base form and sort of rally around their team watch. I think Arizona personally would be a really fun place to go for a playoff series and to watch one. However,
yeah, if you're an opposing fan, you want some cheap ass fucking tickets.
Yeah. However, just like
sorry,
no,
sorry, Biz. Sorry, Biz.
Oh, that drive is awful. If you're anywhere on the east side of Phoenix, you're fucked. Anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, it is really hard to see them maintaining or sustaining this, success that they've had for the final stretch of the year. It's just one of those things where, like, can they not run out of gas? Like, you only have a handful, like 10 or how many more games do they have?
They're at 70.
Yeah,
all
I was
right, so
going
they
to say
got 12.
12.
Got a dozen games to go. So yeah, it's sort of just going to be like sort of dragging their feet to the finish line. And at that point, are they going to be able to like, sort of muster up to be competitive for a playoff series against the Winnipeg Jets? Or no, it'd be against the Sharks. So like, it'd be fun to see. I don't see it happening. I feel like, I'm sorry, Dan, but I feel like the fucking Wild are probably going to sneak in somehow just because they do, and then they're going to get waxed. So
no, that's what I'm thinking. I'd love to see them be that dark horse and maybe win a series, but yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think they'll be the ones to squeak in, and then they'll just, I don't know if they'll get like swept, but at best it'll be like a 4-2 sort of thing is sort of what I'm thinking.
The thing is, I bet the Coyotes, this was not supposed to be a year, at least from what I can tell, this definitely wasn't supposed to be a year that they expected to be competitive in the playoffs. I get that, like, it's hockey and anyone can be good in any year, but like they added a lot of new talent this year. Like, you had to think that this is sort of a stage where they're still sort of figuring things out. So obviously this is, sort of overachieving. They have a lot to build on going into next year. Get healthy. If you can get a whole season or a good amount of season with a healthy group, like, then that's when we can expect to see like a dangerous Coyotes team. my opinion.
Right. And Phoenix, I think, has always been a good destination for free agents, like Vegas. It's practically summer year round and sun and all that stuff. Who wouldn't want to play? Who wouldn't want to play in Phoenix? So
I want to see them offer sheet Mitch Marner. I want to see that so badly. I wanted them to do that with Austin Matthews, but that's obviously not happening. So,
I mean, I don't think there's been an offer sheet signed since who was it was either Shea Weber or Ryan O'Reilly.
I was going to say, I think Ryan O'Reilly.
Yeah, maybe I know Weber signed with the Flyers and O'Reilly signed with the Flames and then went back to Colorado and then Weber went back to Nashville. But like it's expensive. Like if you go over like a certain amount of money, like and you don't match your player, the team that signs the guy owes you like 4 first-round picks. I'd say if you're the Coyotes, would you get up your next 4 first for Mitch Marner? Probably. But
I mean, it's Mitch Marner. He's what, 21?
Yeah.
Is it actually 4 first?
It's something ridiculous like that, I think. And Marner right now is getting his dick sucked by the entire league. So
John Cooper, he's the smartest player ever.
Cooper, fucking Marchand.
Oh, we didn't even get into that, but well, I don't know if anyone's got anything else, but if not, we'll wrap her up. Kevin, you good or?
Yeah, I'm good.
I guess as John Taffer would say, well, shut it down. But yeah, boys, thanks for joining, and we'll talk next week. Going to the Rocky Mountains. Might actually partake in a little Blackhawks, let's just say, on trying to think. But I think that's actually a big stretch for the Hawks. I mean, they're buzzing right now. If they can keep rolling, they got back-to-back games on a Saturday, Sunday against Colorado. So hopefully they're still making some noise by then. So they're taking care of business right now. At Toronto, up 5-1 after 2, and then they got a game on Hockey Night in Canada against Montreal. So do or die time. Kaner's about to hit his 100th point, so we had to get our little Hawks talk in there, but slipped in a Perlini's thing. But, yeah, that's all we got this week. So
all right, boys.
Cool.
Till next time.
All right, till next time. See you boys later.
Bye-bye.